Okay, we are live. Hello and welcome to another live session with me, your host, Leslie Godet, self-care strategist, helping you turn stress and overwhelm into clarity and calm so that you feel rejuvenated, find peace, and really shine in both your personal and business life. Today, we have a special guest with us. I'll be speaking with Jodie Solberg. Jodie is a certified master hypnotherapist, transpersonal wellness coach, transformational speaker, and international best-selling author, holding a doctorate in counseling. With over 2 decades of experience as both a therapist and coach, and an educational background in both social and clinical psychology, Jodie founded Psyched Up Success in 2019 to integrate her expertise and support clients of all ages and stages in their healing journey. Her work focuses on helping her clients heal from trauma and anxiety, embrace neurodiversity, remove mental blocks to success, gain clarity and confidence, creating inner peace and work-life harmony, preventing burnout, and achieving their personal and professional goals while prioritizing self-care and self-compassion. I'm excited to get this conversation rolling. So welcome, Jodie. I'm happy you're here to talk with me about this very important topic around emotional and mental health, especially when it comes to managing burnout, which most people don't recognize right away until they're knee deep in it.
Absolutely, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited about this topic as well, because like you said, not enough people realize that they're starting to burn out until they're in very deep. And it's much easier if we can recognize those signs, become aware of it, and put some systems in place ahead of time to take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get right to the questions because I know you've got a lot of background in helping people, especially I feel like the emotional piece of it is what can really like exacerbate that burnout. Like it can really push it, especially because like stress gets in the way, or stress becomes part of it, and then everything else seems to like fall in like dominoes. So, in your experience, what are some of the most common emotional and mental symptoms of burnout that you see in your clients? And how do they typically manifest in a person's daily life, both in their personal life or professional life?
So, one of the things that I think is really important is to understand our mind body connection, because yes, there can be those emotional signs and symptoms, but it's just as important to look at the physical ones, because emotions are actually physiological responses in our body that we put words to. And so when we say, I feel anxious, what does that mean? It might mean that your heart rate or your breathing rate has changed, right? If we're really nervous going in front of an audience and speaking, for example, we might start sweating or shaking a little bit, right? If we're having a panic attack, we may have, much more heightened, for example, physiological symptoms. So I think that that's a really important, because our nervous system is central to this. And so when we're looking at emotions, we're also looking at our physical signs and symptoms. And so some of the things that are going to be symptoms of burnout and of those signs and what's going on are actually related to both, like you said, emotions and physical signs, because when our nervous system gets activated, we go into what I like to call the emergency room versus the healing room. And when we're under chronic stress and when we start to burn out, that's the case. And so our body is actually giving us the signs and telling us, even before we start to see a lot of the emotional symptoms, it's saying like, hi, over here, could you take care of us? That would be great. And if we keep overriding that and we keep pushing through and we keep ignoring it, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what I talk about looking for are, first of all, those really basic things like sleep, right? What happens when we're not sleeping well, right? If we're not getting enough sleep? Well, there's a lot of things that could happen there, right? And everyone's going to be a little different on where they carry their stress and their tension. And, some people are going to get headaches. So maybe it's tension headaches or migraines or chronic pain, or chronic health condition flare up. So if somebody has an autoimmune condition or a past injury, right, or arthritis, those things might flare up. You can have digestive issues, right? A lot of people will say when they're really stressed, they have issues in their gut. And so they might start having some GI symptoms, or your immune system goes down because your immune system is strong when you are emotionally regulated and your nervous system is regulated. But when it's not, there can be a lot of frequent illness. But think about also in terms of, like you said, those emotional signs that go with that, right? Things like anxiety, overwhelm, self doubt, leaning into unhealthy coping strategies, so food or substances. You could be on the lower end of what I call the window of okayness. In psychology, we have something called the window of capacity. And that's more emotional, like what you were asking about, where, in the window, it's, I've got this, I can handle this, everything's good, we're nice and regulated. But we can either go above the window or below the window. And if you're going below the window, then it might be depression, apathy, lack of enthusiasm, isolation, feeling helpless or defeated. And if you're going above the window, it could be things like irritability, loss of patience, um, anger, like resentment, things like that. But when we're looking at work, for example, because people tend to attribute burnout to our careers, because that's how it was first defined when it first became a term many decades ago. But there's also caregiving burnout. So there's different ways, right? Different contributing factors to burnout. But if we're talking about work, things like lack of focus, loss of productivity, and in general in life could be procrastination, forgetfulness, and low satisfaction, loss of patience, and just in general trouble regulating our emotions. So trouble staying in that window of okayness, as my clients like to call it. So, those are some of those emotional symptoms. But like I said, I thought it was important to mention that our mind and our body are so connected. We can't really separate those out. So it's important to look at both, because for some people, you're going to get the physical signs sooner than you will some of those emotional signs. And if we just keep ignoring and overriding that, then, like you said, we get in a little too deep at that point where, it's more challenging to pull ourselves back out of that.
Yeah. So sorry about the purple camera thing. For whatever reason, my camera just decided to go purple. So, yeah, I
Okay,
love what you were saying.
it's like
Yeah.
Halloween colors.
Yeah, there we go. Hey.
It's October.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
we are in October. So hello, happy Halloween. But regardless of that, the conversation is really important. I love what you were saying. One of the things that you mentioned, which I don't think people recognize it, if they caught it or not, is decades ago, burnout was coined. Burnout was first realized decades ago in the professional sense. And so it's something that's been around for a long time, yet we've never really talked about it, I think, as openly as we do today, or at least I'm trying to make that become the reality where we talk about it more today than than just like it just becomes that mainstream thing. Like you were saying, it's now moving into other areas. It's going across industries, for one thing. It's also now moving into our personal lives through, like you were saying, caregiving. It's moving into our kids going to school and the expectations of them with the curriculum and the I guess the goal, the drive for excellence. And the same thing for those who are going, young adults going into colleges and universities, the same thing, that there's that mindset of like pursuing excellence to get the best degree, to get so that they can go out and get the best job, so that they can go out and buy the best things. And that can be really, I feel, extremely hard on a person if it's now not only is it now we're starting to recognize that it really does affect us even from a young age as a child all the way up into now as an adult? What does that say about, society is in general, that we're not really paying attention to that? I think what's happening is my own personal experience. And one of the things I've noticed is people don't know when they're burning out. They only know when they're in it. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. They only know when they're in it because they're looking at the symptoms. I had a conversation with someone. They're looking at the symptoms of, oh, I'm just having an off day. Or, I'm just tired because I didn't get enough sleep last night. But maybe those sleepless nights have been going on for a while, not recognizing that. So I love how you brought that in, that there's just so many different things that we might not even recognize as burnout, but these are things that are happening to us. And I really find that it's important that we talk about that, because I know, for example, a lot of people find themselves in cycles of burnout. They don't know they're in cycles of burnout. They just think that, again, they're having that off day, or it's just one of those days. So what are some signs that someone is stuck in this cycle, and what can they do to break free and create a healthier balance in their life?
So, like you said, it can be in many areas, and all of those signs and symptoms can often be just excused or explained away, right? Because they could be attributed to a lot of other things too. And so it is important to remember that, burnout's that state of physical and or mental collapse caused by overwork or chronic stress. We're designed to, have some stress and then it goes away. Right. But in our world today, we're often under a lot of chronic stress, which is really stressing our immune systems, like I said, stressing our nervous systems. And so I have stages of burnout that I have come up with to help describe like where you're at and when and how to recognize that. And the first stage, honestly, doesn't even seem like a stage of burnout. I call it the enthusiasm stage because that's where we're all in on whatever that is that we are doing. We have this, passion, this like productivity, we're working hard, we have this high output of energy. But as you said, in our society, there's a couple things that happen. One is the pressure and expectation to achieve, right? And then the second thing is that we're really conditioned in our society to override, to push through. And so, to give you an example, when we go to school, so we go into grade school all the way through until we are working for someone else, we're then told that we have to wait until the bell rings or until it's break time to go eat if we're hungry, to go use the restroom, get a drink of water. Any of these things we have to push through and work and wait until someone else says that that's okay. And what that causes is for us to be in the mindset that our mind and body are separate, that we can just push through and ignore what our body's telling us. And so we do exactly what you said, Leslie. We say, oh, well, the kids are, bringing stuff home from school. We're always sick this time of year. Or, oh, I just didn't get enough sleep last night. I'll catch up later. Things like that. And so what starts next is what I call the struggle phase. And so that's where you really have that frustration and fatigue start setting in. And maybe, your motivation goes down a little bit, your productivity and your focus start suffering. Maybe you're under a little more stress and anxiety over getting all the things done all the time, as we tend to put a lot on our plates and we're just trying to push through those things. But then you get to where you really crash, but kind of in between there, right? Before you really see things get bad, there's the challenge. There's right when you start to see the effects of that stress. That's right when you start to see your health get strained. That's right when maybe your relationships suffer a little bit. Like, let's say your family's complaining that you're working all the time or you're always on your phone when you're with them. Right? Or you might start to feel guilty about not being with your family when you are working. You're starting to just work a little too much, maybe, and not replenish, not restore, not take really great care of yourself. But you are like, oh, it's just for right now. I'll take care of myself later. Right? It's just for this season. I'm just working on this thing right now. I'll get there. So we need to recognize those subtler signs and symptoms before we start to see things suffer, right? Before things get really a lot worse, before we start getting to that crash phase where we're in that mental and physical exhaustion, complete lack of motivation, depression or apathy, or what we, or pressure cooker ready to explode. And so one of the techniques that I teach to start to reconnect, to start to just be able to recognize what's going on in your own body, because we are so conditioned to disconnect from a young age, is just to do a 1-minute check-in. That's it. It doesn't take very long. All of us can fit in 1 minute in our day, and just to stop and breathe for a moment. Concepts, right? of let's stop and take a moment to breathe and really just take what I call 3 mindful breaths. And all that means is you just breathe, and breathing through your nose is the best if you can do that, because it helps oxygenate even more. And to really just breathe in all that good oxygen and breathe out any tension, any stress, anything that needs to be released in that moment. And just do a few of those. You can do 3 to 5 nice calming breaths. My favorite technique is a nice calm breathing technique where you can count to get everything else out of your mind, because typically our minds are racing with all the things we have to do. And so you can count in for 4 and out for 8. And that's at your own pace. Go as fast or slow as you want. It's completely up to you. But just in for 4 and then out for 8, and just release. So the intention is all the good oxygen flowing into your body, all the stuff that needs to be released on the way out, right? Anxiety, stress, whatever it is. Then check in with yourself. How am I feeling in this moment? We tend to own our feelings. So I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a tip here. I am feeling whatever that is in this moment, like right now. Not forever, right now, because emotions are meant to be felt and then pass. And when we say I'm anxious or I'm mad or I'm whatever, we're actually telling ourselves that that's who we are and that's our identity and that's not changing. Versus, I'm feeling anxious in this moment, or right now I'm feeling a little stressed out, whatever it is, however you want to describe that. And then the second question is notice what's going on in your body. So what are you experiencing? Because again, it's the emotion, but what are you experiencing? Where is that living for you in this moment? Are you a person whose shoulders go up into their ears when they get really stressed out? Are you somebody who gets, gut disturbances? You start to notice your head hurts. What is it for you? Right? I have a little bit of a headache. My back's bothering me. My neck hurts. My stomach's bothering me. Or you could be feeling great and you could be feeling nice and relaxed in this moment. That's fantastic. But notice what's going on. If you have any tension, any tightness, any feelings going on, any of those sensations that are happening, name it. And then take a few more of those calming breaths. And then ask yourself, what do I need in this moment to shift that? If it wasn't positive, if there was some stress, if there was some tension, if there was some anxiety or overwhelm or something happening in your body, in your emotions, what can I give myself in this moment? What do I need? Maybe it's to get a drink of water. Maybe it's to get up and stretch and take a little bit of a break and walk around. Maybe it's some fresh air, maybe you are hungry, whatever it is. Instead of just pushing through and saying, oh, I'll eat later, right? Go grab a snack really quick. Give yourself whatever it is that you need in that moment. That will go such a long way. It seems so simple because it literally takes 1 minute to do that, but it's something that will help you get more connected and start to notice more of what's going on for you internally. And then you can respond to it. You can give yourself whatever that is instead of pushing through over and over and over again. And you will notice that when you do that, you'll be more productive. I love teaching these types of really basic techniques because when we take care of ourselves in very basic ways, we can show up as our best for ourselves and for everybody else. But if you keep going and you burn out, eventually you're not going to be able to take care of anyone or anything. And so I think that simple piece of just stop and breathe for 1 minute is something that anybody could do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you answered my third question because I was really going to ask you, like, what are some simple but practical tips or techniques that people can start using today? And I love your idea about, and which is something I also teach, is around taking that time to actually check in with yourself. Like do that daily check-in, even if it could be multiple times a day, because we can start out great in the morning and by afternoon something happens and it could derail. So I love that. Even like just now I was doing that because right now, as you can see, I look like the purple people eater. I love it. It's for Halloween and it's great, but I can't seem to reset my camera and sometimes that happens. But what I love is that you were saying, check in with yourself, allow the breathing. I think the breathing to calm, and then being able to ask yourselves, like, really, actually, I a lot of people try to to push down their feelings. It's like, I can't deal with that right now, but those feelings are going to follow you around. So it's better to deal with it in the moment than to have it follow you around, especially if you're going to go into an important meeting later on today. So taking time to I'm feeling like this right now. What's going on? Like checking in with yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Like what's happening around me? And then what's happening in your body? Like you were saying, like your shoulders, are they going up? Sometimes even people forget to breathe. That's another way of looking at it too. And then asking yourself, like, what can I give myself right in the moment to help me feel better? And again, that is, or what can I do for myself right now? If that's maybe taking a step away. We live in such a high, fast paced, like mentality world. And it's all about go after the next thing, try to achieve as much as you can. And instead of looking at it from a place like, okay, yeah, I know I have all this to do, but I need to like fit in breaks throughout my day. We tend to really push through a lot. So we tend to we tend to be the ones that are orchestrating ourselves getting into those stressful moments without even realizing that we're doing it. So I love that you shared, this simple technique. It's really important. That helps you to kind of reset yourself. So I have a final question, and I was just wondering if someone is, whether on the verge of emotional, mental burnout, or their work, and that can be in their professional life and their personal life, because we know it crosses not just industries, but it crosses lifestyles. What could be, and I know this was a great tool that you've given us, but what would you say that for them to actually be proactive, to set something in place so that they're not having to as much throughout their days saying like, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, like, starting to get heart palpitations, starting to feel stressed out. Like, what can they do that could be that thing, that could be that something they put into place that really serves them well, so that they can help themselves avoid these types of situations at least as much as possible?
So a couple things. So first of all, yeah, that technique is really great for being proactive, but also reactive. So like you said, they can do it as many times a day as they would like. You can set an alarm on your phone a few times a day if you'd like to do that, so that you don't forget to do that. So if you are starting to get some stress and some heart palpitations, use that technique. It works great for those things. calming anxiety and stress. But, I really start with really basic self-care. I mean, it sounds so simple, but too many of us aren't doing it, to be honest. So things like I mentioned earlier, nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, right? Those things, if you can just prioritize those things, people think of self-care as like bubble baths and getting your nails done, or, going and getting a haircut, or, doing something fun and hobbies, and all of that is great. Wonderful. But that's not going to fix it if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not sleeping, right? That's not going to help that part. And so we want to have this really basic foundation and make sure that you're prioritizing those things. So if we can prioritize rest and restoration, right, and get good sleep, we can prioritize taking care of our bodies on these really basic levels and making sure, especially those of us who sit all the time in front of computers for work, if we can, prioritize the movement and make sure we're hydrating, drink enough water and eating, that honestly goes a long way, because you are much more mentally and emotionally stable and resilient when you're physically doing well. So that is one thing. As soon as my clients will tell me like they're getting much more reactive, their emotions are right under the surface, I start asking questions like that. How are you sleeping? Are you eating food? Are you drinking water? What's going on? Right. So that's one big thing. And then for me personally, and what I recommend for others too, is really look at building in breaks for yourself. First of all, to do those things. But that was a big shift for me that was really important, because I was always in one season of life, rushing from thing to thing. And I'd always be stressed out because if one person was late, it was going to make me late for the next appointment. Or if traffic was too bad, then, that was pushing me behind, and everything was just stacked on top of each other. And so one thing that was really, really the biggest key for me was to start building in buffers and breaks throughout my day so that I could not be stressed and rushed and pressuring and pushing myself all the time, so that I could take care of all of those basic needs of whatever it was that I needed, and just do those check-ins so that I could be able to restore and replenish. Because I believe in, they always say like fill your cup. I actually believe that we should keep our cup filled so that all those extras for the self-care are like the overflow of your cup, and that you give other people the overflow, that they get that overflow. And so you're not constantly just depleting yourself to nothing over and over and over again, right? We want to fill it up so much that we have excess to give others. And so that's one of the ways that I do that, that I think is really, really helpful, is rearrange your schedule. So I make it so that nobody can overlap, or get too close. I always have little breaks for myself so I can do those check-ins, so I can do those self-care pieces. If you can do just those things, or even just take breaks where you can get them, like if you're waiting for something, if you're in a waiting room, or you're waiting for your kids to get done with soccer or whatever, instead of feeling like you have to be productive constantly, take a break. Whatever that is, if you're like, I can't do that right now, start with those basic self-care pieces. Start with the 1 minute check-ins. That 1 minute could be your break. And then you could expand it, and then it could be 5 and 10 and 15 minutes, whatever it is, but make sure you're giving that to yourself, and that you're not the one that's telling yourself constantly to override, and that, you're hungry. Well, you can't eat right now until it's time for a break, right? We're so used to that from other people. It's important not to do that to ourselves, because it's to our detriment, and then it's to everyone else's detriment. Because then again, if you start burning out, you're not going to be as productive in your business. You're not going to be able to take care of others the way you want to. And remember that you're not just a business in a bubble, right? Or the relationship over here, your house over here. We're whole people. So everything in one area affects us in those other areas. And so we're not superhuman. We do have more, Leslie, you mentioned this about how fast paced we are. We have more information coming in with our fast paced world and technology now in 30 days than people 100 years ago had in their lifetime. And so please remember that we are giving ourselves a lot of data and we're overloading our brains and our bodies on a regular basis. So if you just basically take care of yourself, you will be able to avoid so much burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining today and sharing about that, and especially talking about all areas of emotional, mental, physical, cross industries, across personal, crossing over into lifestyles. I really love, your how you were explaining the differences, like, you were talking about how when we to look what we look for, and how things, our illnesses could be indications of something even underlying from that, like something deeper. It could be, our bodies, as you were saying, are starting to react first beyond our emotions. Now, I also think that our emotions can also have our bodies reacting as well. But I feel like I love how you were saying, like, there's just different, looking at our capacity, like the different areas, like depression, isolation, to where we're irritable or we're angry, or you go up and you think about we're frustrated more or we're frequently ill.
Mhm.
Like, where is that coming from? And we can, a lot of the time, we can tie that back to stress, right? It can be stress. Usually they say that stress is usually the reason behind why certain things get pushed higher and higher. And that is that stress is one of the, I think it's what, 85%, something like that, is like the number. 85% of people go to the doctor for stress related visits, but a lot of the time their stress isn't being treated, it's a symptom. So you're putting a band-aid on the symptom rather than looking at the underlying issue. So I love that. It's a reminder that, burnout too isn't just about managing workloads. It's really about our lifestyle and how we treat ourselves. As you were saying, use the checking in technique, the 1 minute check in, expanding it beyond 1 minute if you can. And then also, having the alarm for it. Also, you were saying, it's important, which I believe is true. Your nutrition, your hydration, movement, and sleep, those things are like cornerstones to self care. But typically, people don't look at self care that way. They look at it as, oh, it's my time for me to treat myself, to go out to
Mhm.
lunch, to buy myself something nice, to get my hair done, get my nails done. Those are great. Those are still self care related. But the underlying ones, like these core ones, are going to help you to maintain energy, to use your time better, to have more quality of life. So it's really important. I really find that it's so important. That's why it's why I do the type of work that I do, in where I focus on helping women create those systems that address not just that physical part, but the emotional part, their mental capacity, and also quality of life, so they can break free, even when they don't know that they're in a burnout cycle. They've gone through burnout cycles, is to actually help them to break free of those cycles. They can start to recognize it and regain that control. So I really appreciate you took time today. I know you're really busy, but to share what you know. You are expert in this field, and I love what you have found in your personal journey and working with your clients. How that has been so helpful, for them, for yourself, and just these what seems like a little thing can be such a powerful tool. Again, that checking in with yourself. So I love that. Um, so if you are someone who's been feeling overwhelmed, emotionally drained, stuck in a pattern of burnout, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be your reality forever. You don't have to keep running on empty, feeling like you're barely holding it together. If today's conversation has resonated with you and you know deep down it's time for change, but you haven't yet made that move, this is your moment. You're standing at the crossroads of staying stuck in burnout, and even though you don't know you're there, and stepping into a healthier, more empowered version of yourself. I can guide you there. Jodie can guide you there. So if you're ready to finally prioritize your well-being, reach out to us. You have the ball is in your court, as they would say. And if you're ready to take that step forward, creating that life, you can either message myself right now and let me know. I can send you a link to book a free wellness strategy session with me, and we'll take a deeper dive into your challenges and your desires and discuss how to help you reclaim your energy and balance. Or even reaching out to Jodie, who is an incredible person. I've known her for a while now, and she can really help you as well through just through what she does and helping you to see like this is a natural part of our lives, and we don't have to run away from our emotions. We don't have to push them down. If we start taking better care of ourselves, we actually can have that quality of life that we want. So, Jodie, thank you again for your time today and for sharing such valuable information.
Thank you so much. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you said, everything is connected. So, the statistic you were asking about is 85% of physical conditions have a psychological component, according to the CDC. And so, like you said, it's completely connected. I mentioned too that I do have a book on burnout. So it's called My Burnout to Bliss Guide and Journal. They can find that on my website or on Amazon. You can look me up there too. And like you said, Leslie, it's such an important topic. Thank you for having me on to talk about it so we can raise that awareness. And like I said, we help in different ways. What I love about what we do is it's very complementary. And when you are wanting to prevent or recover from burnout, it's so important to have a care team, to have that support, to try to do it all by yourself does yourself and everyone else around you a disservice. And so reach out for that support. Ask us any questions that you might have. We'll look forward to connecting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure that all of Jodie's information is included below, because definitely if you're looking for more, and especially your book, yeah, I'm going to go check that out. Definitely when you can have uh, resources to support you, especially when you're going through whether you are going through a burnout phase, whether you don't even know that you're going through a burnout phase, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, definitely having someone like her in your corner is going to be really helpful, like me in your corner, to help you out. So thank you again for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for being so gracious to allow me to appear to you as a purple person in honor of the month of October for Halloween. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.